peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Conflicts exist on this continent. One of the most ranging conflicts on the continent of Africa is the question of Biafra. From 1965 or before that, the Biafrans had their own institutions. Before the colonial master arrived, they have agitated themselves, they have told the world they want fair treatment in a nation called Nigeria. Successive regimes have always trampled upon the rights of the people of Biafra, destroyed them, killed their younger men, assassinated many, deported many, excluded many, forceful deportation out of your own country. Time has come for the new generation in 2020, 2021, 2022, for people to sit down to find an everlasting solution to the conflict that is around that region. President Buhari promised us that he will finish in 100 days, the first term of office. Boko Haram will be dead. Today is finishing his second term. Boko Haram is even more vibrant than his own shoes. We have landed in very serious murky waters that the people of Nigeria don't know which direction they are going. The people of Nigeria, a big country with a big population, an economic hub of West Africa and Africa, with the biggest reserves of oil, still lingers in poverty. The poverty and the rich gaps in Nigeria are wider than the distance between Mars and Earth. What can we do for our countries in Africa? How do we unite? For us, our role is to speak, to defend the voiceless, to chart our way forward, to find a solution. The only way solution can be got on the Biafran issues, a referendum, which Buhari and the government present have refused. But sincerely speaking, Nigeria needs rearrangement. If that rearrangement does not come today, tomorrow, or the other day, one day it is going to explode. People can be pushed, but they cannot be pushed beyond what Biafrans have been pushed. The suffering is too much. Pictures that I cannot show on this television. I call upon President Uhuru Kenyatta as a member of the United Nations Security Council to see that some of these problems should be resolved and a resolution is passed of sitting down to understand the difficulties of the nations, especially in Nigeria, in Cameroon, because the problem of Biafra is also similar to the problem of Amazonia. The English-speaking people have no say in Cameroon. They are taken as second-class citizens. Biafrans are also taken as second-class citizens in a country called Nigeria. Their problems are compounded with a dictator who has lost direction, who doesn't know where the wind is blowing from, whether east of Sahara or west of Sahara. He's going north when the wind is going south. Therefore, it's blown one leg going up, one leg going down. Look at the picture of Buhari standing 6.1 feet, being blown apart. Thank you.
Very good afternoon to you. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you're watching me this Tuesday. This is Punchline Africa Television, and of course, the show is Diaspora Dispatches. If you're new to this show, this is where we get to look at the news-making headlines across the continent. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and we're coming to you all the way from Kenya's capital here in Nairobi. A rather chilly afternoon right now, just a few minutes past, about 5 minutes past 3 p.m. here. And so I'll just like for us to go through some of the items we have, and then we shall look at them in details once I'm done. So thank you so much. We start with Kenya, where the Kenya's Education Ministry has said that all primary and secondary schools will reopen next year. The ministry said all students will resume studies in their current classes. Now, Education Minister George Magoha said no final year national examinations will be held for primary and secondary pupils this year. Those exams are usually held in October and November each year. Colleges and universities will, however, prepare to reopen this September this year with the strict guidelines, the minister said, with only those that meet the requirements allowed to do so. And we go to Nigeria, and a greater cooperation and intelligence sharing is what is needed to successfully defeat Boko Haram terrorists in the Lake Chad region, a report by the International Crisis Group has said. The multinational joint task force drawn from the regional states holds the key to tackling the jihadist threat, but that so far success has been limited, the think tank has said. Now Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Nigeria, with the help of Benin, made up the multinational joint task force, which was formed back in 2015 after a growing realization that defeating Boko Haram required a collective responsibility. 5 years on, it has approximately 10,000 unified soldiers. 10,000 unified soldiers from all these countries. I'd like to know what kind of success have they been able to achieve. Please, if you're watching me and you're from any of these countries, let me know how you rate the progress of this joint multinational joint task force there set by Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Nigeria to fight Boko Haram together with Benin, and they have contributed altogether about 10,000 soldiers there. And still with Nigeria, and police in northwestern Nigeria said armed criminals have shot dead 15 farmers in an attack on a village in Katsina State. They say about 200 gunmen opened fire on people working in the fields outside Yargamji village on Monday. Now more than 100 people were killed and working in the fields outside the village, and in a similar attack in Katsina State between April and June. And the gunmen are believed to be herders who have been competing for farming communities with farming communities over land and access to water and decades. I don't know why they keep calling these people herders. These people are criminals. If they keep killing like that, how do you keep calling them herders? These people are criminals, and that is what they should be called. And we move to Zimbabwe. And Zimbabwe's largest nursing union says police have arrested more than a dozen nurses and union representatives protesting against poor pay. Now, the nurses are demanding to be paid in US dollars, saying that inflation, which is running at nearly 800%, is eroding their salaries. At least 13 of the members and union leaders were arrested during the demonstration at Harare Hospital, and Zimbabwe's Nurses Association, Mr. Enoch Ndongo, has confirmed. We move to South Africa, where coronavirus cases in South Africa have surpassed 200,000 mark. Health Minister Zweli Mkhize said 4 provinces were at risk of a surge, adding that a lockdown for the provinces was a possibility. The affected provinces was Gauteng, Western Cape, Eastern Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. Cases in the country are rising, with thousands of new cases being reported daily, and the Ministry of Health, however, says a bigger surge could have been experienced if the country had not gone into lockdown. And we move to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the Democratic Republic of Congo's government has sent former warlords to try resolve the conflict in their home region of Ituri. A delegation that includes Jermaine Gatanga and Matthew Koljolo arrived in Ituri last week. Gatanga was charged and convicted by the International Criminal Court in 2014 for being an accessory to 4 counts of war crimes and 1 crime against humanity, including complicity for a 2003 attack that killed more than 200 people. Gunjolo was prosecuted but acquitted by the ICC for alleged roles in the same attack. Now, in Ituri, gunmen killed 11 people, including military local officials, in an ambush attributed to the militia, accused of a string of massacres. The AFP media has confirmed. And we head to Ghana, where Ghana's main opposition has announced a female candidate as a vice presidential candidate for the first time. Nana Opoku-Agyeman will join forces with former President John Dramani Mahama as he attempts a comeback in December's election. And if the opposition NDC wins this year's presidential election, then she will become Ghana's first female vice president. Now, the poll on the 7th of December is expected to be keenly contested, with incumbent President Nana Akufo-Addo seeking a second consecutive term. And then we go to Ethiopia, where an opposition party in Ethiopia says the security forces have arrested 5 of its senior members following last week's protest that left more than 160 people dead. The Oromo Liberation Front says the politicians were detained in the capital, Addis Ababa. The group's chairman, Dawood Ibsa, said it was not known where they were taken out. The violence in Ethiopia started a week ago after the murder of the popular Oromo singer Hachalu Hundesha. Oromos make up the largest ethnic group in Ethiopia. And we move to Cameroon, where the Cameroon government says it is not in any talks with the separatist leaders, as widely reported on social media last week. Even a number of mainstream news outlets, including the BBC, reported that a government representative had met with some Anglophone separatist leaders in the capital, Yaoundé, where they were being incarcerated. On July 6th, a statement signed by Information Minister Rene Emmanuel Sadi said dispelled the news, stressing that the reports did not conform with the reality. Added that all efforts are being taken by the government to end the crisis in the country's 2 English-speaking regions, but all such measures were aimed at preserving the unity and territorial integrity of the country. And still in Cameroon, at least 1 soldier and 17 suspected armed Anglophone fighters were killed at the weekend following clashes in the Bui division in the restive northwest regions of the Cameroon. The clashes were as a result of 1 week insertion of soldiers at the Bui and Goke-Kunja divisions in the northwest regions, our sources have confirmed. And we move to Mauritania, where former Mauritanian President Mohamed Ould Abdelaziz has been summoned to appear Thursday before a parliamentary commission of inquiry set up to shed light on his years in power in the West African country that ran between 2008 and 2019, according to an official letter AFP saw on Monday. In the letter addressed to the former president, the president of the Commission of Inquiry, Hibi Ould Diaye, said Mohamed Ould Abdelaziz's name has, during previous hearings of the Commission, been directly cited many times in connection with facts and acts that could constitute a dangerous violation of the Mauritanian constitution and law. And then we move to South Sudan, where a new trafficking in persons report shows that South Sudan has not, for the last 5 years, prosecuted human traffickers or convicted individuals responsible for forced conscription of children into armed groups. The report published by the U.S. Department of State revealed that government of South Sudan does not fully meet the minimum standards for the elimination of trafficking and is not making significant efforts to do so. It placed the country in the Tier 3 category with 13 others, and these others include Afghanistan, Burma, Cameroon, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Iran, Iraq, Libya, Mali, Nigeria, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. Why is Nigeria in this group of countries that... what? Okay, fine. You tell me what you make of this. I'm not really surprised, but I am surprised because a lot of these countries have gone through years of civil wars, and you would think that perhaps Nigeria will do better, but now it appears that it is on the list of the countries that are not doing well to prosecute human traffickers or convict individuals responsible for forced, taking of children into armed groups. That will make a lot of sense. So if you're watching from Nigeria and these stories that we've been reading here, and a lot of children also are being recruited to Boko Haram. So now I'm not surprised that Nigeria is in this list, but I was a bit surprised there because when you read the list of these countries, a lot of them have gone through years of turmoil. And Nigeria has been relatively, stable compared to, say, a country like Somalia or Iraq or Libya. And so, but yeah, I'm not really surprised. Together there with Mali also and Sudan. Very well. And so we move to South Sudan, where the chairperson of the Economic Cluster Subcommittee has called for thorough investigation into non-oil revenue that he says is being diverted into individual accounts. The non-oil revenues are by law wired into the accounts of the National Revenue Authority established in 2018. The Revenue Authority is mandated to assess, collect, administrate, and enforce laws related to taxation and revenues. And now the funds are collected through various taxes. Onyoti Adigo, who heads the cabinet-level subcommittee, believes that import taxes, among others, are still being channeled into private bank accounts. South Sudan. And after the removal of Dr. Olympio Atipoe as the Commissioner General of the NRA, his successor, Erjok Bulen, stopped the announcement of monthly collections. There you go, South Sudan. Now see where your monies have been going. Only the oil money can be accounted for, but not fully. But other forms of revenue after are being channeled into personal accounts. South Sudan for you. And we move to other news, and the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, said and vowed also that they are prepared to sacrifice the last drop of their blood to restore Biafra. He said he does not expect everybody that bears a Biafra name to support wholeheartedly the move IPOB is making to ensure the freedom is restored in Igbo land. And quoting Kanu and what he said, "We urge the good people of Biafra not to be unduly burdened by certain comments designed to pander to the Fulani Caliphate uttered by some individuals or politicians as we march ever so remorsefully to our destination, which is freedom for Biafra." And Kanu said in a statement by his media publicity secretary, Emma Powerful, that these misguided individuals should therefore be pitied rather than condemned. And he reiterated that we are not expecting every person, of course, to support Biafra agitation as long as we know that currently 99.9% of our people are in support of the movement IPOB is making towards our quest for independence. All right, then, the Biafrans, I know you're watching, and a lot of you have been having troubles with some of the comments that some people have been making there about your leader. And so a few times I've read some news here that, by the way, that marks the end of our news. And there's anything else out there that you think that I should know, please share with me, and I'll share with the rest of our viewers. Yes, so a few times there are people who have raised problems with the leadership of Nnamdi Kanu as the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, calling him names and just questioning his ability to, to lead the people of Biafra to where they want to go. And a lot of you have come up here in his support a lot of times, and he's responded finally to some of these claims and allegations some people have been making, and he's saying it's okay. We don't have to agree, and not everybody who is part of that dream will agree entirely with perhaps the process or the people or whatever is happening there. But he's saying that as long as the majority of the support, which here he says with a lot of confidence, 99.9% of the people there, of our people, are in support of the movement. IPOB is making towards our quest for independence. So he's saying, don't worry about the few individuals who have not been agreeing so much with what the movement is doing. At the end of the day, I think the majority of the support is what counts there. So he's saying that he's urging all the good people of Biafra not to be unduly burdened with certain comments designed to pander. And we have had these conversations before, as I said there, and we've been talking here, when I bring the news of what some people are saying in regards to this movement. A lot of them have been very critical of Nnamdi Kanu, even some of them saying, fine, he might be doing fairly good work, but should they be given an opportunity, they thought that they will take the movement to the next level of success. And a lot of our viewers here who are from Biafra, you came out and said, no, Nnamdi Kanu is doing an excellent job, and you have full support and you have full faith that he is the right man for the job, and you have castigated, and criticized back these people who have been very critical of Nnamdi Kanu. And we've seen so many of them come out in the recent past, and you've been wondering, why is it that right now would be the right time for them to come out and think they have something to say after the struggle, after the sacrifice that Nnamdi Kanu has made there on behalf of IPOB and the cause that he truly believes in. And so after that silence, Kanu has now come out and said, forget these people. As long as majority of the people are with him and that movement, it doesn't matter. And so that is what matters, that, a lot of people have confidence in him and have confidence in the movement, and he vowed that they are prepared, Biafrans are prepared to sacrifice the last drop of their blood to restore Biafra, saying that he does not expect everybody that bears a Biafra name to support wholeheartedly the move IPOB is making to ensure that freedom is restored in Igbo land. So he's saying it's fine. We don't expect everybody to be on board, even the ones who we are keen with, but it's fine as long as, we stay focused on the goal. All right, so I guess a lot of our viewers here, you have been... Okay, I see you back. So thank you so much. Keep writing, and while you do that, let me know where you're watching us from. And so Nnamdi Kanu has finally responded to these allegations and to this criticism that has been directed towards him in the recent past. We've seen a lot of people come from Nigeria, others from Biafra itself, others from the Igbo itself, coming out and saying, Nnamdi Kanu, he's done fairly, well, but perhaps we could be the people who would take this movement to the next level. And also others came and really, criticized him and raised a lot of serious allegations, of course, that are not really founded. And since then, Nnamdi Kanu has come out and refuted some of these claims. And now he's saying, forget these people and, don't be burdened by these comments. And he's saying these are people that perhaps are being used to negate, to negate some of the gains that have been made by this movement. So let me know what you think about this. A lot has been said, and we've talked about it here. And a lot of times I would see some tempers rising here, and people wondering, why are we focusing on these people who are obviously very negative to us, Nnamdi Kanu? But you know what? We normally look at both sides, and now Kanu has come out and he has responded to those claims and those allegations, and he's saying, don't be burdened because in anything that you try to do, not everybody will agree with you, but as long as the majority are with you, that is what matters. So keep writing to me. And as I say there, it's always a pleasure to know where you're watching me from. So while you write to me, as I see you writing right now, please, I want to know where you are tuned in it is afternoon here in Nairobi, just about 23, is it? 23 minutes past 3 p.m. So talk to me. What do you? Of course, you would agree with what Kanu has said, because a lot of you have been saying the same thing. You're saying those are people who have been bought. Those are Igbos who have been compromised. Those are people who are being used to cause some confusion by perhaps the regime or other people who are against this movement. So Kanu has responded there and is saying, leave those people alone. Achukwu Emeka Obidigwe, you're watching me from Malaysia. Obidigwe. All right, I need to say names right. If there's something you should get right, always is someone's name. All right, and what Ani is saying, 99.9 behind our leader, and that is what he said. And he's very confident in that. And Onyebuchi Nana, you're saying you're watching from Malaysia, and Dan Francine Nwanko, you're saying you're watching from Holy Land in. Are you watching live from Israel? Oh, very well. I've not really checked Israel's latest coronavirus cases. Please, can you let me know what is happening there, please, Nwanko, if you may. Thank you very much for watching. And Chris, you're saying you're watching from Ghana at 12:25 p.m. here. Thank you so much. And something that is happening there in Ghana, we see the opposition party there. Now, the former president, basically, Mahama. I don't know why. And this is not the first time. We saw also, I don't know which country also, a former president is coming back to vie for the presidency. What is wrong with the leadership of Africa? Once you've been given an opportunity to lead, you should exit honorably. Why do you have to go? Someone else replaces you, and then you think you have a right to come back, as if there are no other leaders that are qualified in Ghana. And as much as he's now gone to pick a woman as a running mate for the first time, should he win, Mahama, should he win? Remember, he ran one time and he was defeated by Akufo-Addo, and now he wants to come back and challenge Nana Akufo-Addo in the next elections there. Why does he find a need to come back? The things that happen, I know Putin, if you know the history of Russia and how much Putin has been in politics and power there, he went and came back and went, and now he will be there for the laws have been changed. So he will be a president. From 2024, I think he'll start afresh, serve another 2 terms. Are they 6 years each? So Putin has been able to manipulate, find his way around, Russian politics for the longest time. But that is just over there. Why do we need that here in the continent? You go, and then people have to recycle you back, as if we don't have any other leaders that are qualified in Ghana there. Come on, Ghanaians. But, that choice is left for you. I just don't understand how this works. There's also another country in Africa, I can't remember exactly where. Is it Cote d'Ivoire? I think it's Ivory Coast or where? A president was elected so many years ago, and he's decided he's going to come back, So I just don't understand. I don't understand this obsession with power, and the people already refused you. Can you just take that and get out of the way and go join the former heads of state union? I hear we have that in Africa, though I don't see what it does. The first time I heard these heads of state, what is it called? Heads of state, I think it's a word, it's not a movement, it's a union or something. The first time I heard it is in existence is when they talked about the killing of George Floyd, and they made a statement condemning the killings. And then I wondered, so many things happen in this continent that we will require some former heads of state in this continent to come up and speak against, and be with authority and speak against some of these heinous acts that happen in this continent. But we've not seen that happen. So perhaps Mahama needs to go join that union of the former heads of state. But he's saying no, he wants to come back and continue and try to serve again in Ghana. And I'm saying I don't understand how that works. And the obsession of our leaders of just wanting to claim. Already Ghanaians chose another option. What makes you think they will choose you back? I mean, Akufo-Addo replaced you. So what makes you think Ghanaians now would want to have you back again and recycle your leadership? I don't know, unless, Ghanaians decides to, surprise all of us. Who knows? All right. So let's talk about Nigeria. Not really Nigeria, but the rest of a few other countries there. Because, I've been having troubles with, the menace that is Boko Haram. Even as we speak right now, police in the northwestern Nigeria say armed criminals, don't call them armed criminals, have shot 15 farmers in an attack on a village in Katsina State. They say about 200 gunmen opened fire on people working in the fields outside the Yargamji village on Monday. How do 200 gunmen approach a village without anybody noticing and go and cause mayhem without anybody noticing? Please help me understand. How is this even possible? So these 200 gunmen, do we have a government in Nigeria? 200 gunmen opened fire on people working in fields outside, Yargamji, a village on Monday in Katsina State there. And more than 100 people were killed in similar attacks also in Katsina State between April and June. Now, the gunmen are believed to be herders who have been competing with farming communities over land and access to water for decades. Let's stop calling them herders. Let's call them the first name, armed criminals, because these are criminals. 200 of them approach a village. Are there no police in these villages? Are people not secured in these villages? Do we not have any, authorities in these villages that a gunman composed of 200 people can actually walk into a village and kill people in this manner? I think this is something that should be addressed. And I remember the Senate there early in the year tried to query and question President Buhari over his leadership and what the government has been doing in terms of, containing the security in Nigeria. I think this will be the time for more Nigerians to even speak up, because this is not right. How do 200 gunmen walk into a village and kill people and just walk away scot-free, and you didn't hear that even one of them was killed by police? What is happening? Is police working in cahoots with these people? Is police protecting? What is happening there in Nigeria? And why are people not out there protesting? I saw people were protesting even when George Floyd was killed in the United States. A country like even South Africa said every Friday people will be wearing black and protesting out there. Come on now. These are things that are happening that we should be protesting as a continent and speak against. And I've not seen anyone try to raise issues with this matter there. So, and still in other news touching on that, greater cooperation and intelligence sharing is what is needed to successfully defeat Boko Haram terrorists in the Lake Chad region. A report by the International Crisis Group now says the multinational joint task force drawn from the regional states holds the key to tackling the jihadist threat, but that so far success has been limited, the think tank says. And now Cameroon, Chad, Niger and Nigeria, with the help of Benin, make up the multinational joint task force, which was formed in 2015. I want to understand this. And of course, they have contributed in total about 10,000 soldiers. So we have all these, how many countries? We have Cameroon, we have Chad, we have Niger, we have Nigeria, and then Benin is helping out. So 5 African countries, 10,000 strong forces there on the ground. How many are these Boko Haram fighters in that region? Is there a will really to defeat Boko Haram in that region? Now, the ICG does acknowledge some success, while including military campaigns from 2017-2019, which pushed back the insurgents, freed civilians, and enabled the delivery of aid. Just pushed back, and then what? When you push them back, what they did go back there to do is to regroup, is to rethink, is to strategize, is to find other ways whereby next time they come and they launch their attack, you're not going to be able to push them back. And that is what has been happening, and we've been seeing happen with the Boko Haram in that region, especially in Nigeria and Niger and Chad, and also in Cameroon. So I don't know what they need to re-strategize. They need to think. And of course, the report calls for funding issues to be resolved with the help of the African Union and European Union, which both help create the joint task force. But with the terror threat showing no signs of declining, establishing peace in the region will not be easy. It will not be an easy operation for the joint task force. Now, Boko Haram and its offshoot, the Islamic State in the Western African province, have killed thousands and displaced about 2 million in northeast Nigeria. Northeast Nigeria alone, Boko Haram has displaced about 2 million. I can't even imagine that happening. Even in Kenya is relatively small compared to Nigeria. Nigeria is a powerhouse here in Africa. But the things that happens in that country, sometimes I just don't understand. How is it that 2 million people have been pushed away from their villages, have been pushed away from their towns, have been pushed away from their homes? Where in the world is the government of Nigeria? Why are the people of Nigeria not holding to account President Muhammadu Buhari as the commander-in-chief of the federal state of Nigeria? I don't understand. I don't know, maybe the other side, they feel they're safe, they're okay. And then up there earlier, you see some herders, criminals, 200 of them storming in a village and killing people. 200 people is a lot of people carrying guns, and they will do that with impunity. Come on now, President Buhari, you have to get your act in order now. You have to start protecting the people within the borders of Nigeria. That is your work as the commander-in-chief and as the president of that state. That is why you're there as the president, please. You're failing in your job because your number one responsibility, as I have said here, and I keep saying and I repeat it until we see some changes happen there in Nigeria, that is your number one job, and you're failing at it very, very grossly. I don't even know how you sleep at night and feel safe and have a good sleep while the people that you are leading have been displaced from their villages. The last almost over 2 million of them have moved from their homes. They don't feel safe, and you're just comfortably sitting there as the head of state. Sir, you have failed, and you have to do something about the runaway insecurity there in Nigeria. And these are the countries that have come together: Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Benin. I don't know, 10,000 uniformed soldiers. These are a lot of soldiers on the ground, but we've seen very little progress. I don't know what they do. I don't know what is their strategy. I don't know, do they need any help from outside? Because I know Nigeria refused help. A few countries, volunteered to come in and help the leadership of Nigeria. They fight Boko Haram, and President Buhari said, "Nah, we got this in control, and now see what is happening." So I don't know. And we've seen France. A few of France's soldiers have been there in the Sahel region trying to quell, Boko Haram, but that so far has not worked very well. So what is the solution to the Sahel region, starting from Nigeria, which is the mother land for Boko Haram, which is the place that has allowed Boko Haram to thrive, which is the place that has provided a safe haven for Boko Haram? Come on now. Boko Haram has displaced 2 million Nigerians, and that is not a problem, for the government. These armed criminals, or what Nigerian government calls herders, 200 of them armed with guns, walk into a village and kill people, and that is not enough for the president to constitute an urgent meeting on security to deal with that menace and deal with that insecurity and to address that. Come on now, President Buhari, you're failing your people, even the few supporters that had faith in you and elected you back there as their president. I think you've dropped the ball, and sir, you need to do something. If you cannot protect the lives of the people who elected you, you don't have no business sitting there and calling yourself a president. Your sole responsibility, outside of other things, is to protect the lives of the people that you lead, that made you president, that you sit there and show leadership to. So you have failed in this regard, and you need to redeem yourself, please. All right. So, As I said there, Ghana's main opposition has announced a female candidate as a vice presidential candidate for the first time. And of course, former President Mahama is coming back. I don't know why he thinks it is important for him to come back. I don't know why he thinks he's the one who has the best leadership qualities Ghanaians have ever seen, and so they would want to elect him again. Ghanaians replaced you. Can you just be content with that? Say, you know what, I led for about 5 years. That's it. He was not able to go for his second term, and the Ghanaians elected Nana Akufo-Addo, and now you think that they will elect you again. I just don't understand that at all. So anyway, these are the news about, I think we talked about it, a new trafficking in persons report that shows South Sudan has not for the last 5 years prosecuted human traffickers or convicted individuals responsible for forced, getting of children into armed groups. And also we learned that Nigeria is still also in that group, according to this new report. So that is something, a lot of things when it comes to, insecurity. Nigeria, you have a lot to do, please. President Muhammadu Buhari, do something about that. And all right, so these are the reports about South Sudan. And the chairperson of the Economic Cluster Subcommittee has called for thorough investigations into non-oil revenue that he says is being diverted into individual accounts. How is it that you have a country whose structures do not even have cannot even be accounted for? So monies, revenues that are being, generated from the country there in South Sudan, outside of oil, any other kind of revenue is being diverted into personal accounts. I don't know how that even happens. President Salva Kiir, do you know these people? And do you know these people who have been diverting the country's monies to their personal accounts, the revenue that the country is supposed to be using to improve the lives of South Sudanese, to support the peace process, to support, these other measures and everything, and fighting coronavirus. And now these monies are being diverted to private accounts. President Salva Kiir, come on now. This is something that you have to address. Now, something that is very interesting on this South Sudan story is that after the removal of Dr. Olympio Atipoi as the Commissioner General of the National Revenue Authority, his successor, Jock Bulen, stopped the announcement of monthly collections. So apparently, South Sudan used to make monthly, announcements of how much money it has collected in terms of revenue. So that means it was not so much. If you're able to make a monthly, announcement, that means it's not as much as, because I can't imagine here in Kenya they do that. Maybe quarterly or yearly, or in regards in line with the financial year, maybe quarterly or something like that. But monthly. But South Sudan does not have a big economy. The country was just starting to build itself up before it was plunged into civil war. So still the country is not getting so much, and because of the civil war that has continued for the last years, and just now the country, I wanted to say, it's beginning to know stability and peace, but things on the ground are different. We know there are people who are getting killed every day. We know the insecurities continue. We know the soldiers are leaving the sites and going back to the villages with the guns. So normalcy has not returned in South Sudan, but we are hoping that will happen. And so when you hear things like this, you wonder, how is it a revenue of a whole country is being diverted to personal accounts? President Salva Kiir, come on now, you can do better than that. All right, okay. And which other story? Oh, this story in Mauritania about this former president. Before we get to Mauritania, Zimbabwe, the largest nursing union says police have arrested more than a dozen nurses and union representatives protesting against poor pay, and they want to be paid through US dollars there. And of course, inflation in Zimbabwe right now is nearing 800%, the highest among the highest in the world, and that should be a concern. This will be the wrong time for nurses or any health official to go on a strike there in Zimbabwe. As you see, the numbers are not as high as compared to the rest of African countries. A matter of fact, I have the figures here with me, and the numbers right now is at 734. The death toll is 10, and recoveries right now stands at 197. So still low compared to other African countries, but still, Zimbabwe is not a country you want to hear that any nurses or doctors are going on strike right now. Because earlier in the year, Strive Masiyiwa, the billionaire there from Zimbabwe, had offered to pay the nurses for 6 months. I guess 6 months, I think, ended in June, I suppose. So now the government is not able to pay them, or even if it is, they want to be paid through the US dollars. They don't want to be paid through the Zimbabwean dollar, because that money is just paper. All right. Okay, the value is just so low. So this story from Mauritania, where the former Mauritanian president, Mohamed Ould Abdel Aziz, has been summoned to appear on Thursday before a parliamentary commission of inquiry set up to shed light on his years in power in the West African countries. He was the president between 2008 to 2019, maybe about 11 years there. And now they want him to come and account for some of the things, because there have been a commission had been set out to investigate some things that happened in that regime, and his name kept coming up all the time in a lot of these things. So they said, hey, you need to come here and explain and shed some light on some of these things. And this is something that Dr. David Matanga keeps talking about here, and that's saying that this could be the reason why a lot of African leaders just would prefer sticking to power, because if they leave, then a lot of things that they've done, they might be one to be held responsible, or there will be a form of a witch hunt, or they'll have to account, which I am for accountability 100%. If you don't want to be for anybody to follow you after you've done with your presidency or your leadership, just do the right things, and nobody will come after you. You'll go and you'll enjoy your retirement, unless you're like Mahama, who thinks he wants to come back. If it was anywhere else in Africa, perhaps right now, they would have opened a Pandora's box of what happened during and when he was the president of Ghana. So just the top stories, I recap very quickly before I finish. Of course, that news from Nigeria and the cooperation between the 5 countries there in the Sahel region in terms of fighting Boko Haram. 10,000 uniformed forces have been there, contributed by these 5 countries, but we've not seen any progress. And they've only managed to push Boko Haram just a little bit, but they've not even defeated Boko Haram. Instead, Boko Haram has continued to grow. That other attack from Katsina, in Nigeria there, and also that response from Nnamdi Kanu coming out to say that all those claims and reports that you've been hearing coming from people, sometimes others within the Igbo itself and others outside, criticizing him and laying out these allegations. He's saying sometimes you don't agree. It's not a must that everybody agrees with you, but as long as the rest of the people who believes in this dream and believes in his leadership are still supporting him, then I think that is what matters. That is what he said, and he said that we are not expecting every person to support Biafra agitation, as long as we know that currently 99.9% of the people are in support of the movement IPOB is making towards our quest for independence. So you said the others as just stories. They should not listen to that very much. And so thank you so much. Thank you for your time. My what do you call it? My tablet. Is it my tablet? It's off, so that's why I'm not able to. I didn't realize the power was a bit low. That's why I'm not able to go through your comments, but I will, and maybe I'll pick some for tomorrow. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for writing to and engaging with me this afternoon. My name is Miriam Ogutu. A very good afternoon to you, and I'll see you here back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Conflicts exist on this continent. One of the most ranging conflicts on the continent of Africa is the question of Biafra. From 1965 or before that, the Biafrans had their own institutions. Before the colonial master arrived, they have agitated themselves, they have told the world they want fair treatment in a nation called Nigeria. Successive regimes have always trampled upon the rights of the people of Biafra, destroyed them, killed their younger men, assassinated many, deported many, excluded many, forceful deportation out of your own country. Time has come for the new generation in 2020, 2021, 2022, for people to sit down to find an everlasting solution to the conflict that is around that region. President Buhari promised us that he will finish in 100 days, the first term of office. Boko Haram will be dead. Today is finishing his second term. Boko Haram is even more vibrant than his own shoes. We have landed in very serious murky waters that the people of Nigeria don't know which direction they are going. The people of Nigeria, a big country with a big population, an economic hub of West Africa and Africa, with the biggest reserves of oil, still lingers in poverty. The poverty and the rich gaps in Nigeria are wider than the distance between Mars and Earth. What can we do for our countries in Africa? How do we unite? For us, our role is to speak, to defend the voiceless, to chart our way forward, to find a solution. The only way solution can be got on the Biafran issue is a referendum, which Buhari and the government present have refused. But sincerely speaking, Nigeria needs rearrangement. If that rearrangement does not come today, tomorrow, or the other day, one day it is going to explode. People can be pushed, but they cannot be pushed beyond what Biafrans have been pushed. The suffering is too much. Pictures that I cannot show on this television. I call upon President Uhuru Kenyatta, as a member of the United Nations Security Council, to see that some of these problems should be resolved and a resolution is passed of sitting down to understand the difficulties of the nations, especially in Nigeria, in Cameroon, because the problem of Biafra is also similar to the problem of Amazonia. The English-speaking people have no say in Cameroon. They are taken as second-class citizens. Biafrans are also taken as second-class citizens in a country called Nigeria. Their problems are compounded with a dictator who has lost direction, who doesn't know where the wind is blowing from, whether east of Sahara or west of Sahara. He's going north when the wind is going north, south. Therefore, it's blown, one leg going up, one leg going down. Look at the picture of Buhari standing 6.1 feet, being blown apart. Thank you.